be the best you, because if you're the best you, you bring your best to the team. And if
Yes.
you all those people are in that team are best themselves, their best selves, they'll bring that best to the company. And it does not work the other way round.
I think it's really important that every employee is on board with the overall goal, and the people at the top figure out what way works best for each employee and work towards that, and try and accommodate each person's preferences in a way that they can to the best of their ability, because nobody's perfect. But I think that at least they're trying, at least make that effort to try and accommodate people's
Mm.
needs. And at least if everyone's working towards the same goal, then happy days, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think there's the interesting thing is, I mean, one of the only advantages or few advantages with getting older and being around the workplace for such a long time is that you get to see difference, right? You get to see how things evolve, and I've been working 33 years now, and I look at compare the world of work when I first stepped in it to now, and I can see vast differences in the way we work. And somebody asked me recently, was doing a study on stress, what was my take on why we see such high levels of stress and anxiety in the context of work right now. And my answer was, it's almost like when they ask a question, they're asking you to kind of pinpoint something of recently, i.e. COVID or something like that. And my response to it was that most of these things, like the emergence of increasing levels of stress and anxiety and things, are all long-term issues. What we're seeing now is a manifestation, not something from even the past year or two with COVID. It's a manifestation of the last 20 years of ways of working that
Yeah.
are now starting
Mhm.
to show something. And it takes that long to come through. I'll give you a medical example. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know when the switch, but at some heart disease was the biggest killer in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Chronic heart problems. It's now dementia. And
Wow.
when you think about it, um, people in the 90s, early 2000s dying of heart disease was probably a result of the poor diet we had in the 60s and 70s and the excesses. Alcohol, smoking was prevalent, the meat and two veg diet, that sort of thing. That
Yeah.
had a knock on effect to those people through that, and then they became older
Mhm.
and they died of heart disease. And for the last, probably from the mid to late 80s, early 90s, we've been a little bit more obsessed with better diet, health,
Yeah.
and smoking, not smoking, and that sort of stuff. So inevitably, heart disease dies down, but dementia's going up. And why is dementia going up? Because we're not looking after ourselves mentally. The whole thing about depriving sleep, and we talk about business now when we say, yeah, look, if we can accommodate, as you just said, if we can accommodate people's differences, and if we could take that step to understand all of these things and how life impacts on them, you frame it as
Yeah.
though it would kind of be would be nice, would be a request, if you don't mind, Mr. Organization. And yet, if I go back to when I first started work now, when I went into the office 8:30 was the start time. I
Yeah.
lived locally, and for the it was a factory. I was in the HR function. People started leaving at 4:30, 5 o'clock from the factory, and then some of the staff would go. And if I was there at 6 o'clock on my own, or 6:37, which wasn't, but if I was there, I wouldn't people out at all. And I was young and enthusiastic, and it was the only place I could get my hands on a computer. So I'd stay in the office and knock myself out on this really sort of basic computer. But I was fascinated by it. But when I
Yeah.
went home, I was at home. I was
Mhm.
engaged with my partner, and I was doing things in the house. What I was doing, never
Yeah.
heard from work. If you go 30 years ahead, somewhere during that period of time, largely I think the internet's responsible for it.
Yeah.
I started to take work home at night. Yeah, electronically, it was coming at me, and over the weekend, and this acceptance that work would bleed into your personal life
Yeah.
just grew and grew and grew and grew to the point where it's kind of almost we wear it as a badge of honor. But there's been no trade. So if I'm taking 2 hours at your weekend and an hour in your evening, the company hasn't traded that back with an hour during the day on a Wednesday and 2 hours on a Friday morning for you to have your life back. Ricardo Semler, who wrote the book Maverick, this is a great book, picked up on this, and he wrote a second book called The 7 Day Weekend based on that principle. If I'm spending 3 hours writing a report on a Sunday afternoon when I might normally take my kids to the cinema, why can't I take them to the cinema on a Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock? If they're not at school.
Yeah.
So I think we've got we've created this narrative, and it's seeping problems. So this we get to this point, but it's been over such a long period of time we've become to accept it. And actually, we need to not be backward in coming forward about saying how do we redress this balance, because it is seriously not good for anybody's health or good for output. And COVID took one of those limited beliefs of leaders, which was people can't be trusted to work at home, and blew it out the water. But that's only one of the many myths around people and productivity and work that still need to be blown out the water. But it takes pandemics to do it.
I know. Who would have thought? Who would have thought we needed a pandemic for this to happen, for this change to happen? Because it's actually quite important. You mentioned about the whole health and also mental health. I didn't realize like the real big health implications it has. So it's quite a big insight into that for me. But also, I think that's why a lot of more companies are trying to weave into more like mental health practices in their company, which is a start. But I feel like there's still a way to go with it, because it's not just one method for everyone. Everyone needs to. We're all different individuals, and we all have our different issues. And I think it's being able to, like you said, even having that conversation, speak to employees, speak to them about what they want and how we can help them. Because it's like we're helping employees and employees are helping us. It's kind of like a two-way process. You've got to be able to help them to be able to do the best of what they can do, and so that they can give the best work to the company. And I think that's really important. And the first thing when it comes to working in a particular organization, or even being self-employed, your mental health has to come first as well. Because if your mindset is not on something, like you can't produce your best work, or you can't even really, it's health first and then work second, I think, in my head, because you can't give what you're supposed to give to a company or anything if you haven't looked after yourself first. So that's a really important point. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's in our business we call it being the best you. And if you go back again to when I worked, when I first started work, there was a term that was used, not so much these days, sort of the company man or the organizational man. And it came from some 1956 book that observed the way we work. And in those days, it was company first. And even when I started work, although it probably wasn't as applicable anymore, because the parental sort of parental organizational approach was sort of dissipating, I did work. I put work first, because I believed in my system that if I, certainly as the breadwinning male, in that, lack of diversity sort of structure that it was, as the breadwinning male, the answer to life, prosperity, good family and everything was to do well at work, because that would then provide me with the sort of the self-affirmation stuff, but also the money and everything else to make it all work. And of course, that's the completely wrong way around, because I end up being less of a person and not the best me. So we flip that on its head and say, you as an individual in this organization, be the best you. So find the best working pattern that suits you. Find the best sleep pattern, importantly, that suits you. Don't break that because of the work we're doing, if we can do this. And just find the physical and mental work that makes you the best person you can be. I'm not interested in what you do. I don't force you to go to the gym or I will share ideas and we can share ideas, but be the best you. Because if you're the best you bring your best to the team. And if all those people are in that team are best themselves, their best selves, they'll bring that best to the company. And it does not work the other way around. But we seem to have got stuck in the fact that it is this way. So, I have a lot of personal baggage over the years because I put it first. And, have had my time again. I'm not big on regrets, but I would flip that coin probably.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. I mean, it's true. I think like we need to break away from that ideology that work comes first, because we are humans. We're not robots. We're not designed to
Yeah.
just, live to work and work and work and like not look after ourselves first. So definitely I agree with that statement. Be the best you, and then you be the best for the company.
Yeah.
That's it. Bring the best to the company. That's pretty interesting.